All right. We're running a little late. Thanks for being here. Thanks for your patience. Thanks for smashing that like button. Let's do a prayer. Does anybody want to do it? Say those cars are the best. Does the map fold up?
Yeah, it folds up into a bag.
Awesome.
It's Velcro on it.
Very cool. Okay, anybody want to do a prayer?
I would love to.
Hit.
Our dear kind Heavenly Father, thank you for allowing us to get together tonight and to be able to study these parts of the Bible. Please bless that as we go through this evening, we'll have the questions that we would like to be able to come to our minds in your facing Savior Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen. Okay. Thank you. Can we just jump to 2 Samuel 11? This is, I was telling Dave a little bit ago, this is a huge chunk. So remember when we did all of Leviticus in one night? That was a huge chunk of text. This actually doesn't have nearly that much stuff going on, but if you think of the Bible as a storyline, we are moving toward an event, the Babylonian captivity, that is going to completely define this book and the religions that come from it for the rest of time. And that the trick is that once 2 Kings ends with the Babylonian captivity, we lose the third-person narrative structure, and we're going to be reading the prophets. And that's a bunch of guys who are throughout this 100 to 200 year span, giving their perspectives from wherever they were about what happened. And so if we don't have a grasp of everything that led up to that catastrophe, then we just got a bunch of ancient dudes talking about weird stuff. All right, chapter 11. Can somebody read it for us? This is the fall of David. You know the story. She's a song about it, I think. You got your
Oh yeah.
nice military issue tiny scriptures. Okay, can somebody just pick up from verse 1 of chapter 11?
In the spring of the year, the time when kings go out to battle, David sent Joab and his servants with him and all Israel, and they ravaged the Ammonites and besieged Rabbah.
Okay, pause. Great job, boys. Those Ammonites had it coming. So there's a clue here. An ancient audience their ears are gonna prick up here. The season when kings, is that what it says, when kings go out to battle? And then he sends Joab, not the king?
Nope.
Okay, keep going.
But David remained at Jerusalem. His first mistake.
Why would they tell us that? In the next verse, he's standing on his own roof. Keep going.
It happened late one afternoon when David arose from his couch and was walking on the roof of the king's house that he saw from the roof a woman bathing, and the woman was very beautiful. And David sent and inquired about the woman, and one said, "Is not this Bathsheba, the daughter of Eliam, the wife of Uriah the Hittite?" So David sent messengers and took her, and she came to him, and he lay with her. Now she had been purifying herself from her uncleanness. Then she returned to her.
Purifying himself from. She was doing the prescribed bathing after a
But,
period.
Then she returned to her house, and the woman conceived, and she sent and told David, "I am pregnant."
Okay. In the words of the philosopher John Mulaney, we don't have time to unpack all of that, but she's bathing on the roof. The king says, "You up." Can you say no to that? Uriah, the Hittite, he's not even Israelite. He's an important part of their military. And he doesn't even he's not a local? Okay, here's the thing. Ugh. David stops being a good guy. One of my favorite interpretations is that this is David becoming like the giants after slaying the giants, wiping out the last of the giants. But for our purposes, the important thing here is it's telegraphed that he's not a good king anymore because he wasn't doing the fighting. The ancient readership of this story would have understood from verse 1, something's about to go off the rails because it's time for kings to fight battle and the king is not out fighting a battle. So in chapter 12, Nathan rolls up. Nathan is a prophet, purveyor of the finest hot dogs. And he, we don't know anything about him. Like, I guess Samuel died at some point. He's not around anymore. But Nathan comes and he condemns him and says, there's no coming back from this. You stole someone's wife, you had the guy killed, or at least put him in a situation where the death was probable, and that's the beginning of the end for David. Nathan's pronouncements in chapter 12 send him down the path where there's no glory in David's future. So, 13 and 21.
You have to like Nathan's, the way he goes about this, because he comes in, tells this little story about someone who has a
Like
bunch.
a
and
goat
someone
or
who
something,
doesn't.
right?
Sheep, I think, or maybe it's goats. And David's like completely clueless. And then Nathan goes, yeah, you're the dude, man.
Roasted. His kids start fighting over the throne. The rest of 2 Samuel is David being chased around the countryside by his own kids, who were trying to do like coups and they fight each other. He asks the king of Tyre for help. So let's go to the map. Okay.
That's a nice map.
Tyre is Phoenician territory. It's a carve out of a carve out. This is David's kingdom ostensibly. Okay. Real talk, if I had a tie, I'd throw it over my shoulder. We're going to play by the narrative's rules. Thank you. The narrative's rules, the Bible's rules are, David is an actual human. Archaeology's rules don't accept that premise. Solomon is an actual human. Archaeology's a little more spotty on that one, but there are enough ancient traditions talking about Solomon and how he could control demons and stuff, leading to medieval mysticism, which is my other passion project, you may or may not know. The issue is, the story is going to tell us that at a certain point after Solomon, his descendants split the kingdom into two. And one part is taken off to Assyria, which I have not put on the map. I think it should be capitalized. And that northern kingdom has 10 tribes, and the southern kingdom is, 2 tribes. And the thing is, there is some question as to whether or not the thing that was destroyed in the north was a kingdom of 10 tribes, or whether it was just some other Jehovah-worshiping Canaanites. And that this idea of a 12-tribe structure may be retroactively put onto this narrative during the time of the Babylonian captivity, because in Chronicles we get a totally different list of the tribes, and one of them is named Gilead, which that's a character we haven't heard from yet. That doesn't exist yet. And also a couple of the other tribes are missing in that list, so it's super weird. Anyway, the reason I'm bringing this up is the narrative in the Bible is telling us that David's sons are going around causing a bunch of chaos. And it's basically lights out for his reign, if not his dynasty. And that brings us to 22. You gotta look at 22. Chapter 22 is so cool. You might remember me at the very beginning of 1 Samuel. Remember 1 and 2 Samuel used to be the same book. Getting misty-eyed about the prayer of Hannah. The first prophecy in the age of prophets. It bookends the Song of David at the end of the book of Samuel. And it complements her prayer by bearing out, I'm going to get back to Samuel 22. Bearing out what she says would happen. So remember, Hannah's song at the beginning of Samuel was all about the Lord bringing the proud low and raising the humble. Okay, let me read, actually, who has the coolest translation? Oh, Tasha, will you just, 22, will you just start running from verse 2?
Yes. He said, "The Lord is my rock, my fortress, and my deliverer, my God, my rock, in whom I take refuge, my shield and the horn of my salvation, my stronghold and my refuge, my Savior. You save me from violence. I call upon the Lord, who is worthy to be praised, and I am saved from my enemies. For the waves of death encompassed me, the torrents of perdition assailed me, the cords of Sheol entangled me, and the snares of death confronted me. In my distress, I called upon the Lord."
Yeah, sorry, I'm just catching up now.
Okay.
Sure.
"In my distress, I called upon the Lord, to my God I called. From his temple he heard my voice, and my cry came to his ears. Then the earth reeled and rocked, the foundation of the heavens trembled and reeled because he was angry. Smoke went up from his nostrils, and devouring fire from his mouth. Glowing coals flamed forth from him. He bowed the heavens and came down. Thick darkness was under his feet. He rode on the cherub and flew. He was seen upon the wings of the wind. He made darkness around him.
Good. At the end of that, will you jump to 25?
Around him a canopy, thick clouds, a gathering water." And then to 25.
Mm-hmm.
"Therefore the Lord has recompensed me according to my righteousness, according to my cleanliness in his sight. With the loyal you show yourself loyal, with the blameless you show yourself blameless. With the pure you show yourself pure, and with the crooked you show yourself shrewd."
Shrewd?
Mm-hmm.
Amazing. Okay. Could also be wily, which I favor, but hit it.
You deliver a humble people, but your eyes are upon the haughty to bring them down. Indeed, you are my lamp, O Lord, the Lord of light. The Lord lightens my darkness. By you I cannot run By you I cannot run a troop, and by my God I can leap over a wall. This God, his way is perfect. The promise of the Lord proves true. He is a shield for all who take refuge in him.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. It goes on like that, pages and pages and pages. It's hard to identify in King James because King James is one sentence, one paragraph. But this is like, I mean, in other translations, is it split out in poetic stanzas for you? Okay, yeah, very cool. Very cool. It just goes on and on and on. And it's beautiful. Not just as a companion piece to Hannah's prayer. I think as an example of biblical poetry, the style that we're going to encounter in the Psalms, it's a pretty cool example. It's worth spending some time with. Let's talk about Sheol real quick. I didn't anticipate talking about this, but Sheol is it's where the dead go. It's the pit. The grave. Okay, this is hard to conceptualize because what we have to do is you and I have to take our star-spangled, like, Puritan European Christianity and, well, for you guys, progress is going this way, so I have to go this way. Okay, we have to unwind that, and we have to unwind the Protestant Reformation, and we have to unwind, the councils of Nicaea, and we have to unwind the Hellenization of the Mediterranean, when Greek culture becomes a big deal. We have to forget everything we know about the Roman Empire. We have to strip down all of our beliefs about what happens when you die to get back to this very simple idea that you get one go around. And when it's done, you go in the same hole. Rich, poor, black, white, good, bad. That's it. The idea of post-mortal existence seems to, I have to keep my credentials in safe, seems to develop much later. When the Greeks show up in the Mediterranean and they start talking about spirits and animating energies, the ether that is stuff but not stuff, that makes up God bodies and drives notions of good and evil, then the idea of Gehenna and Hades develop. Once people start to believe that there is something in here that lives on after the body dies. That's the Greeks. Once you start to believe that, then we start to give it names and we start to imagine landscapes for this to happen. Now, even this is not fire and pointy-tailed little fellows poking you. But it is an astronomical distance from this, the Bible's conception of where the dead go, to like this thing that lives on in honestly kind of a creepy way, which then later gets warped by European Christianity. We slap a Viking name on it, we call it hell, and then the Looney Tunes get a hold of it, and you got heaven and hell, and there's harps and there's little fire-breathing mans. Anyway, the Old Testament is going to talk about Sheol. It's not a place you come back from, unless you're Ezekiel, which is one of the best dudes. And I'm so excited to talk to you about him today. Wait, no, wrong panel. Okay. And with that, 2 Samuel exits stage right. Okay. Then we pick up in Kings. In 1 and 2, David dies. But something so cool happens, you guys. You remember I said this time period is setting the stage for the rest of the Bible. Can somebody go to chapter 2, verse 27? We're going fast. I would love to be able to deep dive and grind into the implications of something David says in his song, or, even share some of Solomon's cool wisdom and the stuff people believe about him. But we gotta get to Assyria.
Chapter 2, what?
227, if you please. I actually would like to hear this one from King James, if you got it.
Okay. So Solomon thrust out
Abiathar.
from being a priest unto the Lord, that he might fulfill the word of the Lord, which he spake concerning the house of Eli in Shiloh.
Shiloh, yeah.
When the tidings came to Joab from Joab and turned after, oh man, these guys' names are crazy. Aduha, through the turn not after of Solomon, and Job fled onto the tabernacle of the Lord and caught hold on the horns of the altar. And it was told King Solomon and that Joab was fled onto the tabernacle of the Lord, and behold, he is by the altar. Then Solomon sent.
Okay, wait, skip to 35.
35. And the king put
Benaiah.
I was gonna say Benihana, but that's all right.
That's fine, dude.
No, wait, that's not right. The son of Jehoiada
Yeah.
in his
What
room
else?
over the host, and I like these names are Zadok, and the priest did the king put in the room of Abihar.
In the room of Abiathar?
Yeah, Abithar.
Okay, it should be in the place of.
Yeah. And the king sent and called for Shmuel
You're good. We don't need to know about Shmuel. Who even...
and the ring power.
See that? Okay. Okay.
Mine says tendon, and yours says tabernacle.
Yes. Okay. There is an evolution here. Wonderful, wonderful observation, Tasha. The temple doesn't exist yet. Solomon hasn't built it. It's still a tent in Shiloh. A tabernacle. The story is, the narrative being put forth by the story is Moses and his people had a mobile tent shrine to their God and their covenant. They carried it around with them. And when Joshua fit the battle of Jericho and the people walked across the Jordan triumphantly, they dropped it in Shiloh, and it has not moved in a couple of centuries. Now, you'll remember from the very beginning of the Samuel story, Samuel was raised at the tabernacle in Shiloh with Eli. And Eli, the high priest, used to sit out front of the tabernacle on a little stool, and he would adjudicate cases that people would bring to him. And it says that his sons were sons of Belial. They were worthless. Okay. We're being reminded 2 books later that Eli's line was trash. Now, I don't know, guys. Keep in mind this is being put together a long time after the fact, so this could be politically motivated. This could be an early foreshadowing to justify this thing that's happening. I don't know. But here's the thing. Eli's descendant is named Abiathar. And Solomon says, you and your whole gang are corrupt. You don't serve in the tabernacle anymore. You're out. And he sends them to go live in some place out in Levite country. And in their place, he installs Zadok's family as the tabernacle priest, the officiating priesthood authority of the regime. Here's why we care about this. Zadok is an ancestor of Ezekiel. Which is why, when the Babylonian captivity happens, and they deport all of the wealthy and educated, the best of the best, Ezekiel, a temple priest, goes with them. The book of Ezekiel will open with him on his birthday, sitting on the shores, the banks of a river in Babylon, in the capital, a suburb of the capital. And all of Ezekiel's writings will be about what this means for his people to worship without a temple. How do you worship a God that demands animal sacrifices at an altar, but you can't have that altar? It's hundreds of miles away. That is the thesis of Ezekiel. I mean, it gets whacked out. It's pretty hard metal. And it's a great example of apocalyptic literature, which I cannot wait to get into. Now, Ezekiel has a foil. The anti-Ezekiel. Tradition holds, because of the town that Abiathar's tribe is banished to, is listed in the genealogy of Jeremiah. Tradition holds that Abiathar is the ancestor of Jeremiah, which is why he is not taken to Babylon. He's left behind. And he is not a temple or tabernacle priest. He is a social services Levite, which is why his message hinges entirely on social justice and caring for the poor and the needy and rounding up everybody who's left behind and trying to fortify the community with whoever's left. These two are a blast to read together. I don't think they know about each other, but they are both Levites of 2 completely different flavors. And the only reason they are in the position to write the stories they write is because of what Solomon just did. That was a weird couple of verses I made Josh read. There's no reason we ever should have paid attention to that. But it is setting up something so interesting. Okay. Rise of Solomon. This is where he threatens to cut the prostitute's baby in half. There's an episode of the Rugrats about that. We don't need to deal with that here, right? Everybody knows the story. Okay, there's a bunch of political intrigue going on. And Solomon gets down to building the temple. This is huge. For the first time, permanent shrine to Jehovah. I mean, unless you count Sinai itself, that's never happened before. So Solomon gets to build the temple, and we are going to pause and jump off into weirdy mysticism land. Because there are two traditions that draw their genesis from this event. One is Solomonic magic, which posits that Solomon's wisdom was given to him through his ability to deal with jinn, like spirits, basically. Because this develops in the medieval period, the word they end up using is demon. So like there's a bunch of old Latin texts that are like, oh yeah, Solomon hired a bunch of demons to build the temple. And you're like, why, what? And then the story goes on to say that like, well, he kind of compelled them because he actually took a demon that was a worm and stopped it from consuming this other weird, like it's so medieval Christianity in its nonsense factor. Anyway, that's going on. And the other one is the Masons. Okay. All the viewers at home's buttholes just clenched up because I mentioned Freemasonry in church. Here's what's going on. In like the 14 or 1500s, a bunch of European guys are going to say, oh yeah, we have secret mystical teachings that go back to the building of the Temple of Solomon. End of connection to the building of the Temple of Solomon. They have a bunch of traditions and teachings about what life was like and what it was to do stonework in those days. And it really informs a lot of early American history. Not just early church history, but early church history because of its influence on early American history. So anyway, Solomon building the temple, big deal. The rest of 1 Kings is going to be Elijah. Dude, so crazy, man. Okay, what did I say? 12? Let's actually read some stories of Elijah, because the dude is wild. 12, I think, is when he roasts all those dudes. And 13. Where phone? Oh, recording. Hey, can somebody tell me in... It's the story of Elijah and the priests of Baal. It's in 1 Kings somewhere. And it's technically part of next week's reading. Ben-Hadad. I can't Google it because my phone is recording.
Yeah, I'm trying to help you out here.
Thanks. Yeah, if you just go to the Come Follow Me, I almost call it Whose Line Is It Anyway? The Come Follow Me for next week. It'll literally give us the chapter we need. And we can read this super rude story.
Let's see, it starts with 16. And go into 17. There you go, 18.
Okay, thank you. 1 Kings 18.
You say it was Elijah's triumph over the priest of Baal?
Yeah.
20?
20, I think you're right. Will you pick it up from there, or just, do you guys try to read? You want me to read it? Okay, hit.
So Ahab sent all of the Israelites and assembled the prophets.
Ahab is a king in the north.
Okay.
He sucks. His wife is Jezebel. She's the star of the show.
assemble the prophets at Mount Carmel. Elijah then came near to all the people and said, "How long will you go limping with two different opinions?"
Oh! Limping?
Yeah, limping.
What does King James say right there? This is a famous one, you guys.
20?
Yeah,
Check 20 or?
verse 20.
Yeah, dude. I didn't even expect to get to talk about this today. Hell yeah.
So,
Mm-hmm.
How long will you...
21.
and Elijah came unto all.
So it says, "How long halt ye between two opinions?"
And if the Lord
So it's halt instead of limping.
halt, yeah, it says, how long halt ye between two opinions? If the Lord be God, follow him. But if Baal, then followed him. And the people answered him not a word.
This is showdown language. Tasha, will you read it for us again?
Okay.
How long what?
How long will you go limping with two different opinions?
Awesome. I was not that old when the Iraq War started. So what I'm saying is, it's part of my millennial hardcore programming to be distrustful of "you're with us" or "you're against us" language. But do you see the problem with this one? Halt doesn't mean the same thing that it meant 400 years ago. Yes. It's actually that's a funny way to say it, but think about how Jesus uses the word halt. Think about how the translators render Jesus' words in the New Testament when he heals the sick and the halt and the lame. Okay? This. Limping is legit a better translation of what's going on there for our day. 400 years ago, people would have been able to say halt is not stop. Halt is not make a lot of progress. Rad. Keep going, please.
If the Lord is God, follow him, but if Baal, then follow him. The people did not answer him a word. Then Elijah said to the people, I only am left a prophet of the Lord, but Baal's prophet, number 450.
Pause. That was a weird grammar for saying I am the last of the prophets of Jehovah. Ahab and Jezebel have waged a very successful war on the Jehovah worshiping community. There is not a lot of their structure. Now, we know that Elijah is not actually the last, because in a few chapters somebody's going to hide 100 prophets and scribes in some rocks to keep Ahab and Jezebel off their trail. But fast forward, Elijah's apprentice, Elisha, will have to rebuild the Jehovah worshiper world. The cult of Jehovah will say. Basically from scratch. Like, they come that close to extinction in this story. Please continue.
Let 2 bulls be given to us. Let them choose 1 bull for themselves, cut it into pieces, and then lay it on the wood, but put no fire to it. I will prepare the other bull and lay it on the wood, but put no fire to it. Then you call on the name of your God, and I will call on the name of the Lord, and the God who answers by fire is indeed God. All the people answered, well spoken.
Okay, what? Yeah. Okay.
You doing some Iron Chef stuff over here?
That's right, get your barbecue on.
That's right, you can get your barbecue on.
Baal is Canaanite for Lord. Why not capital? It's not really a name.
We
there is a God that is called this because it is Lord. He is a storm god. And this is his title before it becomes his name. I'll get in trouble for capitalizing that one. There is a point in, I think, Hosea, where he says, "Say not to me, Baali, Baali, but only Adonai." Because Baali is my Lord in Canaanite, and Adonai would be my Lord in Hebrew. Okay, so he's a storm god. He is also a god of war. He should be able to do some pretty sweet fire stuff here. Hit it.
Then Elijah said to the prophet of Baal, "Choose for yourself one bull and prepare it first, for you are many. Then call on the name of your God and put no fire to it."
Oh, wait, sorry. Okay, back up a couple verses. In the initial premise, we will see whose God does something. What does it say?
So we'll put fire to it. That's what they
Yeah,
said.
we'll put fire to it. We will not put fire to it, and we will see whose God.
"I will call upon the name of the Lord, and God will answer by fire and do all that." Hold on.
I will not apply fire. You invoke your God by name, and I will invoke the
Yes,
Lord by
yes.
name. And let us agree, the God who responds with fire, that one is God.
Yeah.
Is that plus or minus what it says?
Yeah, it says,
The God who answers by fire is indeed God.
Okay. Okay. I want to be very clear. Within the context, the confines of our narrative, the rules of our universe, the question here is not whose God is real. It's whose God is the boss. They assumed is the boss. Who's the boss? I had a dream a couple weeks ago, actually, that I had wandered into a game shop, like a video game store, that I had visited in other dreams, and happened upon a Who's the Boss, cast reunion. And everyone but Tony Danza was there, and it was so weird. I woke up laughing, and I was like, why did any of that happen? I haven't watched an episode of this show in at least 25 years. Okay. Whose God is the boss? They assumed everybody's God was real and actually tied to the land they come from, which is why in 2 Kings, when Elisha and that Assyrian general who has leprosy, who has to wash in the dirty water, he tries to take a bunch of Israelite dirt back with him so he can build a shrine to Jehovah in his land, which you can't do with Assyrian land. You have to do it with Jehovah's land. So I watched one of my favorite Bible podcasts. It's called The Bible Project, and do little cartoons that are like explainers. Here's what happens in this chapter. And they introduce this by saying, it's a contest to see whose God is real. And that is the notion of someone who is high on medieval European Christianity. The reality of God wasn't the question. It was the power of God. Please continue.
So they took the bowl and was given them, prepared it, and called the name of Baal from morning until noon, crying, "O Baal, answer us." But there was no voice and no answer. They limped about the altar that they had made. At noon, Elijah mocked them,
Throw him some shade.
saying, "Cry aloud, surely he is a god. Either he is meditating, or he is wandering away, or he is on a journey, or perhaps he is asleep and must be awakened." Then they cried aloud, and as was their custom, they cut themselves with swords and lances until the blood gushed out of them over themselves. As midday passed, they raved on until the time of the offering of the oblation, but there was no voice, no answer, and no response.
I have to like the ESV version that says, "At noon Elijah mocked them, cry loud, yada yada." So he is musing, or he is relieving himself,
Yeah,
or he is on a journey.
No, here's the thing. That is super euphemized. The Hebrew is very crass.
Yeah.
He's literally saying, "Is he taking a piss?" Like it's a rude text to read in Hebrew. It's funny that they euphemize it even further over there. That's very silly to me. Yeah, thank you for pointing that out, Dave. I was hoping somebody had a version that contained that reference. Okay, let me continue here. 30.
Yeah.
Elijah said to all the people, "Come closer to me." And all the people came closer. He repaired the damaged altar of the Lord, and Elijah took 12 stones, corresponding to the number of the tribes of the sons of Jacob, to whom the word of the Lord had come. Israel shall be your name. That's a quote of the word of the Lord that had come. And with the stones he built an altar in the name of the Lord. Around the altar he made a trench large enough for 2 seahs of seed. He laid out the wood, cut up the bull, and laid on it the wood. And he said, fill 4 jars with water and pour it over the burnt offering and the wood. And he said, now do it a second time. And they did it a second time. Do it a third time, he said, and they did it a third time. The water ran down around the altar, and even the trench was filled with water. And when it was time to present the meal offering, the prophet Elijah came forward and said, Lord, God of Abraham, Isaac, and Israel, let it be known today you are the God of Israel, and I am your servant. I have done all these things at your bidding. Answer me, O Lord, answer me, that this people may know that you, O Lord, are God, for you have turned their hearts backward. And fire from the Lord descended and consumed the burnt offering, and the wood, and the stones, and the earth, and it licked up the water that was in the trench. And they saw this, and the people flung themselves on their faces and cried out, the Lord alone is God, the Lord alone is God. Then Elijah said to them, seize the prophets of Baal, not let a single one get away. And they seized them and took them down to Wadi Kishon and slaughtered them. Just a radical left turn there.
Well, you were wrong. Now we're
Yeah,
gonna kill you.
now it's time to die. You're on Jezebel's payroll. Crazy. I don't like. I am not a huge fan of the answer being mass murder. Basically ever. But this is just one story of Elijah doing wild stuff. There's another one. Okay, let's talk about this real quick. Yeah, we have just a couple minutes. Tradition holds that Elisha had the power to hide. Fast travel, teleportation. Like that FEMA guy who ended up in the Waffle House. You guys following this story? The director of FEMA went around telling everybody that he was teleported into a Waffle House over 50 miles from where he was. And then he quietly got pushed out of his job. So hide is it's like fast travel. I don't want to say teleportation because that's like a sci-fi thing. Like you have to have a machine for that. It's, there are a couple of stories in this section where Elijah is like, he tells everybody he's gonna go someplace, and then he never shows up, but people come from some other place and they're like, oh, we saw that guy 2 days ago over there. And so there's a really funny, so he has this gang of guys that follows him around. They're called the Sons of the Prophets, which you have to remember, son of means belonging to that class.
They were sons of whose prophets?
They were the sons of the, I don't know. They were
It's like, were they
belonging.
on Paul's side or were they on-
Well, they were a scribal school. And he led them a lot. And in fact, they're the ones that Elisha relies on to rebuild the Jehovah worshipers community. There should be a G. Son of is belonging to that class. This is why at the beginning of Job, the sons of God are gathered in God's throne when Hasatan appears. They're the gods. Or in Daniel in the lion's den, no. At the beginning of Daniel, when Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego are in the furnace, and there is a fourth one with them who is like the son of a god. But it gets translated in King James as who is like the son of God, which is really Jesus coded and not what they're talking about. Because again, they're in Babylon. What do those guys know about Jesus? So anyway, there's a story where Elijah tells some guys he's gonna go speak to some invading army. And the sons of prophets show up and they're like, yeah, but will you be there? Tons of attitude in that one because they were used to him kind of piecing out and showing up weird places. So the rest of the story is him fighting Ahab and Jezebel. They will almost win. And then in 2 Kings, Elisha shows up. They die gruesome, horrible deaths as the kingdom devolves and becomes destabilized. So the kingdom is going to split. Northern kingdom, Northern Kingdom and Judah. And these are the kings. So Jeroboam, he's a descendant of Solomon. Bunch of descendants until Hoshea. And then Assyria comes. Rehoboam rules the south from Jerusalem. He has a bunch of interesting descendants that we're not going to talk about. Hezekiah, we are going to talk about. This is the king in the time of Isaiah. And then Josiah is the reformer. He's the guy who sets about rebuilding the temple after all the damage that happened from all this crap. And they discover the book of the law, which Josiah leverages to consolidate the Jehovah worship to his temple alone in Jerusalem, and to craft at least part of what we now call Deuteronomy. I think it's Deuteronomy. Okay. Here's the thing. He's the last one. Well, I think there's actually one after, but he's the most interesting one. The Babylonian captivity happens here. The Assyrian exile happens here for just the northern kingdom. And that's why we have a map. Because this is where it is all headed. Over the course of 2 Kings, we're going to follow all of their careers, and we're going to get introduced to Isaiah and Micah and I think Obadiah. Hosea is definitely going to be there. And then the thing happens, the Babylonian captivity happens, and we're introduced to Jeremiah and Ezekiel and Daniel. And then we have a bunch of guys who develop in Babylon. Then they come back from Babylon, and a bunch of other guys develop trying to recover from that, like Ezra and Nehemiah. Not prophets, just a-holes. I cannot. I'm not looking forward to talking about Ezra and Nehemiah. Ezra is the one who comes back from Babylon and says, we got to build a wall. While all the while, who is it? Is it Zechariah is saying, why do we need a wall? Isaiah said all nations are supposed to flow under the city of God. What are you going to do with a wall? And then Nehemiah is the one who's saying, like, okay, everybody who married a Samaritan wife, divorce them. Get those half-breeds out of here. And Malachi is like, oh no, the Lord isn't cool with divorce, guys. Let's actually hold off on that. So there's tension there in that part of the story, but that's hundreds of years in the future. Here's how it's going to go down. These are the players. Judah, Israel, Syria. Don't get Syria mixed up with Assyria. Actually, is this visible? Yeah. Okay. Assyria is the big empire at this point. Now let's introduce how this is going to go down. Assyria. Every ancient Near Eastern empire invents something big, right? So like the Hittites, they developed a lot of like legal code and musical traditions and some pretty cool board games, honestly, that got passed down to us. And Assyria's thing, some cultures were great, like Egypt, were great at stacking rocks and, desiccating bodies. Those guys actually are terrible at passing down board games. There's this board game we call Senet. Like, every mummy has a set of this board game. Nobody wrote down the instructions. It was so common. Why would you write that down? Everybody else knows how to play it. We have no idea how to play it. We have hundreds upon hundreds of identical sets of this game that's lost to time because nobody wrote down the instructions. Assyria's big innovation, the thing that puts Assyria on the map, is their bureaucracy. Oh, they are the masters of bureaucracy. That seems to us in our modern age like a bad thing. But people whose other greatest technological advancement was lighting arrows on fire managed an empire that spanned the known world at the time. Like, the only ones these guys didn't get their fingerprints on was the Greeks. So I didn't spell Cyprus right. Yeah, my P's just weird. Okay. Assyria is managing some vast terrain out here. The very beginning of Isaiah, there's a bunch of weird chapters about the king, and Isaiah talks about these nations by naming their leaders. So he says that the king of Israel and the king of Aram are confederate. That's how the King James puts it. They're confederate against me. So what's going to happen? This thing called the what is it? The Syrio-Israelite conflict. We'll talk about this more when we get to Isaiah, but the idea is these guys are coming. These guys are just bulldozing a path to Phoenicia because they want trade. They want sea trade. They've never had it before. I mean, I think the Black Sea is up that way. They kind of work up there, but the problem is they're hemmed in by Scythians. Scythian raiders operating out of what is now Ukraine are preying on the northern reaches of Assyria, wiping out towns, stealing payrolls. Like Assyria can't conquer north. They have to conquer west. And they also don't have their own trade fleet. Like their plan is literally punch through everything here and then pay the Phoenicians to carry them places. So these guys have a plan. Let's team up, Northern Kingdom and Syria, and take on these guys and use their men and their resources to fight off these guys. The Northern Kingdom has a different plan. Let's fight these guys and then use their gold to just pay these guys to go away. These guys have a different plan. Let's play like we're going to team up. And then when Assyria shows up, hand them these two kingdoms to say, go away. Now, what actually happens is these guys roll up, crush them, literally run out of money at Jerusalem's gates. It's documented as a miracle in Isaiah. Yeah, I think it's Isaiah that talks about that part. But like, they didn't have the money to keep conquering. So they end up going back. So now Assyria will conquer, what did we say conquer? They really took over the holding company that controls the debts of these two kingdoms. But Assyria has a problem. It's not just the Scythians, it's not just the infighting and the coups and the instability in the capital. Assyria is going to take these guys away, replace them with who will later be called Samaritans, and then they will burn from civil war, started by a rogue colonial general in the ancient colony of Babylon named Nebuchadnezzar. The King James calls him Nebuchadrezzar and his son Nebuchadnezzar. They are the guys who will eventually get Judah, but not before they crush Assyria. And Egypt. You technically can't get Judah without getting Egypt too, because they have a treaty, which is a huge deal to Isaiah. Isaiah talks a lot about how those treaties are no good. Anyway, that's how it's all going to go down. We're going to rely on this map again later. Questions, comments? Let's just poke him off. He's safer on the ground.
It's a lot going on.
It's a lot going on. And the thing is, in a month, we won't have this third-person narrative structure to orient us. We're just going to have the people who were here. And here's the thing. There's this 100-year span where Isaiah, Malachi, Hosea, and I think Jonah are all operating at plus or minus the same time. And then that period ends. And it's Jeremiah and Ezekiel. It's actually Ezekiel and Daniel operating from over here, and Esther, while Jeremiah stays here. Like, we have to be grounded here in the socio-political climate, or we will lose the gravity real quick as soon as we come flying like a bat out of hell out of 2 Kings. This is my favorite part. This is absolutely my favorite part of the Bible. Like, the stuff with the talking snake on page 2, that was pretty cool. But this is my favorite part of the Bible. Is this a good format? Like, I don't want anybody to walk away being like, man, I wish we had more discussion or whatever. Like,
I like it.
Okay, cool. Amen. Like and subscribe.